Still in reviewing the concept of oxygenation, no? So I want us to understand 4 concepts that underpin every ventilator decision and every oxygen delivery choice. First is the oxygenation. In simple terms, oxygenation is simply the supplying of O2 to body cells, no? So it is measured via SpO2 using a pulse oximeter, and the PO2 that is in the blood gas when you do blood gas monitoring. So PO2 means the partial pressure oxygen. No? This oxygen will be compromised if there is a ventilation perfusion mismatch or diffusion failure or shunt. You always see this on patient with the bronchopneumonia. Next is another concept is ventilation. Simply, it means that this is the exchange of O2 and carbon dioxide. In layman's term, this is called breathing. Of course, when we breathe, we inhale oxygen, and then when we exhale the carbon dioxide. No? As what we discussed a while ago, CO2 diffuses across the alveolar membrane when it is exhaled. So we measure this one when we do the blood gas monitoring. We will measure this one, this PaCO2, no? And then ECHO. ECHO is the one that is literally the oxygen, the carbon dioxide that we exhaled after every breath. Next one is the diffusion. So diffusion is the gases that move across concentration gradients from high to lower concentration. Diffusion happened inside the alveoli. No? So this alveolar exchange, this is impaired in pneumonia, pulmonary edema, and RDS. Perfusion per se, this concept is the oxygenated blood delivered to the cell. This one is reliant to the cardiac output. If the cardiac doesn't have a good pumping mechanism, how does the blood will flow all throughout the body? Thus, it will decrease per cellular perfusion. One fun fact is that children, per se, even though they are not doing anything, they consume oxygen 2 to 3 times higher than adults. That is why, for example, there is a minimal or slight difficulty of breathing. The patient or the pediatric patient will fall easily to respiratory distress, then respiratory failure. Next slide. Now that we know already the basic anatomy and physiology of pediatric respiratory system, we're going to discuss about this skill that we should acquire, like assessing and monitoring respiratory status. So the skill that we should acquire is that we should look, we should listen, and we should feel. That is our sequence of procedure when we assess the respiratory status. No? In here, it says that the majority of cardiopulmonary arrests in children are caused by respiratory failure. So, recognition is the most powerful intervention. So, we should recognize it as early as possible. So, before touching the patient, we should look, listen, and assess. Here, on the first column, we should look, we should observe. Start with the face. Is the patient making eye contact? Are they interested in you or in the world? Is the patient tachypneic? Again, a rate greater than 60 is considered abnormal for any child. It may be toddler, preschool, infant, or adolescent. Then Look also if there is nasal flaring because it means that there is an effort to increase the airway diameter. Look also for the work of breathing. Check if there is intercostal retraction, subcostal retraction, and suprasternal retraction. Look if there is a paradoxical breathing, meaning paradoxical breathing. This is like the seesaw. The abdomen is the one coming up first rather than the chest. Meaning, if that happened, we said a while ago that the diaphragm is the main respiratory muscle of the pediatric. It means that the diaphragm is already fatigued, and thus it has a high tendency that the patient already will have respiratory failure. And then next is look if there is a cyanosis. Central, oral, and lips versus the peripheral. This one, the peripheral do not, what do you call this one? Peripheral cyanosis sometimes also will be seen on CHD cases. But if the patient doesn't have a heart problem, usually think it is respiratory. So, the next thing that we should do is listen and auscultate. So, check if there is if you can hear stridor.